Welcome everyone to Alephacademy, and I hope you're having a great Friday, the day where I'm instantly 70% nicer after 3 p.m. For those who don't know me, I'm Gael, the managing director of Aleph here in Malaysia. And I'm really pleased to be here today because I've had the fortune of featuring in Alephacademy in the past as a guest panelist. Now you avid subscribers of the Aleph Universe YouTube channel, you might think, no you didn't. Did you? Surely we would remember if you took part of it. Well, let me remind you, proof. Now, ever since that day, I've been hoping that I impress the powers that be and that they would invite me again. But today, I've not only just been invited back, I have the pleasure of being your host. Now, I've been running Aleph Malaysia since 2015, so 7 years now. But my passion for understanding how to lead a company has started way before. In fact, before I joined Aleph, I started and ran a PR and events agency. And before that, in my previous jobs, I would just pester my bosses with questions, and because I wanted to find out what they were doing, because I found it so fascinating. It's not because I was amazed at what we were doing, but because I wanted to understand why certain decisions were being made depending on the situations. Why did we choose to tackle or adapt to a certain circumstance in this way rather than that way? This brought me on this journey of asking a lot of questions and eventually attending seminars and workshops over the years from renowned gurus such as T.R. Eker, Roger Hamilton, Anthony Robbins, and most recently Robin Sharma, John Maxwell, and Deepak Chopra, to name a few. Now, it was my passion in leadership that ignited so many adventures over the years. And the one thing that made me the happiest, and it still does to this day, is to see a team member achieve and succeed their ambitions and their goals. Which is why today our main story is about leadership. You know, that thing you might search on YouTube and 90% of the videos are doodles, pretty much all the same, saying the same things over and over and over and over again. Now, the topic of leadership has been a topic which has been discussed since the beginning of time. There's tons and tons of books about leadership. There's multitudes of leadership gurus, mentors, consultants, teachers, you name it, they exist. However, the idea of leadership has never evolved so drastically as it has done in the last 10 to 20 years. Sure, there are certain characteristics which have remained the same, certain attributes which were true 1,000 years ago, which are still true to this day. But it's how leadership is viewed, embraced, and applied, which has continued to evolve over the years. And this is even more true in the post-pandemic world. So today, in order to get an overarching sense of what leadership means these days, we need to look at 4 things. One is breaking the stereotype of leadership. If we break that stereotype, then what is leadership? How organizations and teams are embracing this leadership, and how each and every one of you can lead in your own way. Breaking the stereotype of leadership. Now, when you think of leaders, many out there will think of leaders who have impacted their lives. Some will think of political figures, some will think of the sports team captains, some will think of their boss even, while some will think of prominent TV characters in a TV show. But if you ask your parents to describe a leader to you, or if you look back 15 to 20 years and think about what a leader was to you then, it's not necessarily the same as what you would think a leader is today. There's this old school leadership stereotype, which tends to be more of a commanding style of approach, which is often known as the great man theory. It's a command and control approach that relies on a leader sitting on top of a number of people, having great knowledge on how to solve problems and instructing people under them. They were revered when they were successful, and people would follow them because they wanted to be part of that success. Very often, this sphere of influence was dictated by the level of success they had. Some would even compare this to someone like an army general or an old school CEO from a large corporation. But today, this has evolved. A key factor for this is the innovation of technology, the extensiveness and breadth of knowledge at our disposal, and the mindset evolution of a younger generation. Today, there are more and more leaders who measure success differently, and there are followers who are more driven by values, principles, ethics, and goals. Now, don't get me wrong, there are still the commanding old school leaders out there who are still doing very well, and they'll continue to do well. But there is a shift happening. I would dare say a style of leadership where the commanding attributes are diluted, whilst other characteristics are more prominent and more desirable. Things like empathy, integrity, respect, persuasiveness, having a vision and a goal, they're all factors that play a big part these days. Now, if you just take a look at the world today, now let's look at New Zealand, for example, who in 2017 voted Jacinda Ardern into the Prime Minister's seat at the age of 37. Or look at France, who the same year voted for Emmanuel Macron as their president at the age of 40. Now, both of them have served their term, and both of them have been re-elected for a second term. This is not because they had a lot of experience. That was an old school kind of mentality. In fact, they didn't have much in their case, but they brought a whole different set of strength which appealed to people. Experience was no longer a factor. And why? Because they had new ideas, they spoke and resonated with people, they surrounded themselves with amazing people, with leaders. Some were specialists, experts, consultants, advisors, but each of those were leaders in their own right. Now, I'm aware, I've used politicians as an example here, but that is to demonstrate the impact that leaders have had, where they've had the backing of the majority of the population in their respective countries. And those countries are democratic. People could choose and vote for who they wanted. Now, the same can apply to organizations around the world. Just look at people like Stefan Larsson, who's the CEO of Ralph Lauren at the age of 41. Ryan Marshall, who's the CEO of Polter Group at the age of 47. Francisco de Souza, CEO of Cognizant Technology at the age of 47. Even people like Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook and Larry Page of Alphabet. Those are all CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, but there's plenty more like them in companies of all shapes and sizes, which have had an adverse effect around them.
So, what is leadership?
So, what is leadership then? If I was to characterize it in a simple cause and effect, leadership is the ability to influence. I'm not talking about the desire to influence or the intent of influencing people, just purely the ability to influence. Whether that is to influence people around you or a leader, or to influence an outcome based on their effort. It doesn't matter. And I say this without any exaggeration here, but I've met many people over the years who have been leaders without knowing they were leading. Have you ever met people, or even think about yourself, who, when someone asks a team or a group, hey, can you nominate a team lead or a captain for your team, and someone calls you out, says your name, hey, this guy should be the captain, should be the leader, and you're humble, you're like, no, that's not me, I'm okay, no, I'll just sit in the back here. Does that sound familiar? I'm sure it does. Well, like it or not, that nomination, the reason why a group of people called out your name is because you have already been a leader in your own right. You have indirectly or directly influenced people around you in a positive manner to the point that they were willing to give you a title to recognize you for what you've done. Like I said, a new age leader does not command people. Instead, they show up when it matters. Sometimes they take charge of the situation when the problem occurs. They help their colleagues to grow and get better when they're stuck. They stay back when the rest of the team is behind. These are all attributes of leadership. Leadership is not a title. It is not a position. It is a state of mind.
Management versus leadership.
Now, another stereotype about leadership is the idea that management is leadership. Some think that management and leadership are the same thing, but that's not true at all. They're not the same. Sure, there are overlaps between the two, and let's start with the fact that they both have different meanings. Both imply different unique set of skills, characteristics, and function. This is really important for you to understand this, but if there is one key takeaway from today, make sure you remember this. Some people can lead without a managerial role, while some managers out there don't even practice leadership. Leadership is, like I mentioned, the ability, whether intentional or not, to influence and an ability to achieve a goal or specific target by oneself or with a group of people. Management is the art of getting work done through people, to the satisfaction of the people around, the customer, the employer, everybody involved. To give you some example differences, leaders tend to set goals to reach while managers follow them. Leaders think of ideas to solve problems, managers think of executing. Some leaders take ownership and share while managers delegate. Leaders look for answers to why and what, whilst managers look for answers to when and how. Now, overall, don't confuse leaders with managers, or CEOs, directors, supervisors, team leads. Leadership, again, is not a title. It's a state of mind of which anyone and everyone can partake in to the level that they want.
How organizations embrace leadership.
So, how are organizations, groups, teams, or even squads today embracing this? There are so many different leadership models in the world, and some are more successful than others, but a model that has risen in recent times, and one that we embrace here at Aleph, is the idea of distributed leadership. It's the idea of leading together. Now, leadership is no longer about a small, select group of elite people with special skills and abilities and knowledge and who run an entire organization, but leadership is about an entire organization. This involves hierarchies being flattened and power and ownership being shared throughout the organization. It's not controlled by the top anymore. It is distributed across the board. Now, in a company like ours, for example, that could mean that a squad lead notices that a specific team member is really good at grooming and story estimation, and he has this ability as a gifted team member, and therefore the squad lead may decide to start sharing the power with that person in order to better complete these tasks in the future. This is often seen as a way to maximize skill sets of team members and grow other people in the process. But notice that I use the word share, not delegate, right? Therefore, the distributed leadership approach is all about the participation of many individuals in activities, which includes leadership. It is more than one leader's knowledge and experience. It's rather the product of many individuals and the relationships among them by combining all of these leaders together. Now, why is that important? Well, for example, let's say you start your career as a junior designer. You do a good job, you receive a promotion, you perform equally well again, and you get another promotion, you get a new role, another promotion, and you continue to scale up the ladder. And every step of the way, you move further and further and further away from what you were originally doing. And you can end up being quite unfamiliar with the recent trends, the tools, the expectations, the personas. And if that's the case, do you think that you'd be the best person to make decisions about the upcoming creative projects? Let's take me for an example. When I started at Aleph, I was a project manager, and we did everything on Excel at that point in time. We had a waterfall methodology that seemed like the norm at the time, and then eventually we learned about Agile, and we started implementing that. And from Agile, we went a bit deeper into Kanban and then into Scrum. And in terms of tools, we went from Trello to Jira. But as we got into all these new methodologies and new tools, I took on more responsibilities. I worked up the ladder, and I'm at a point now where I'm not that familiar with Jira. Right? My background might still be project management, but Jira isn't exactly the thing that I know the most. There are other people within the organization who are much better than me at this. And that's why I need those people. It's to have them around because they will help inform the decisions that we make from a standard point of view and a quality point of view to ensure that we deliver the best for our clients across the board, right? So that distributed leadership model gives experts and opportunities to people on the front line to earn an autonomy to achieve the goals that we have as a team. Now, studies have shown that there are multiple benefits within organizations and teams which have implemented such an approach. In terms of what this means for people and the organization, you're talking about speed. When power is evenly distributed, decisions can be made without always having to hear from the top. As a result, tasks can be completed much faster. And when I talk about the top, I don't necessarily mean the top of the company. I'm talking about, it could be the top of the squad, at the top of the department, at the top of any team you're in, right? Now, in terms of productivity, that seems to have increased as well because it gives the team members more independence over their work, and this nurtures trust and leads to more ownership. This in turn encourages commitment, engagement, development, and a general improvement in our own quality of work. But just like an increase in productivity, innovation also takes a hike. It also grants more space for creativity and collaboration. People are more likely to interact with one another, share experiences, knowledge, and benefit from a stronger connection. The fourth point is about growth, right? Really important to us and our people, but it gives the opportunity to team members to move up. It gives everyone the chance to lead and determine their own path and their own velocity for reaching that path, right? So these are really valid and interesting points why such a methodology and a leadership model can be really helpful. Now you can imagine that the autonomy, that ability and trust given to self-govern needs to be earned and not openly given. But if you do things continuously and over again and you do them right, then there's no reason why this can't go in the right direction. Now, for example, I'll give you another example. Some of you might know that I play in the band. Shameless plug, but it's called Kyoto Protocol. And we are not Japanese, and yes, we sound like we could have been called the Geneva Convention. But that said, in a band, when there's 5 of us, the front man is typically the leader. That's the perceived perception, if you like. But we have all over time played a leadership role individually and collectively together. When you're in a band, it's not just about writing music. It's working with promoters, doing PR, press releases, radio interviews, merchandise negotiations, negotiating gigs, setting up even more interviews, handling the social media, engaging with our fans through different channels, and trying to come up with ideas to keep staying relevant and be in the top of people's minds. And we've done that for 11 years. And we have gone to where we are today because of what we've done in those 11 years, right? We've got 4 albums out already. We've toured across the entire of Asia. We've been playing at some of the biggest festivals in this part of the world, including even the F1 in Singapore. And this was because we distributed the leadership across the entire band.
Discover the leader in you.
So what does this mean for everyone here? It means that there's room for growth. There's space for you to lead, whether it's in the company that you're at now or the company you'll be at in the future. Anyone who aims to achieve great things will say that they want to contribute to the success of a team. So to do that, we all, in some shape or form, need to play a part, and we all need to lead to some extent. Again, I want to repeat this so that you don't get distracted by the word lead. But leading is not about managing or commanding people. It's about doing the everyday things right and doing them so well that you build an ability to influence either those around you or influence things around you. So in order for you to help you on your journey here, I will walk you through some key techniques and points, and at the end of this, there'll be a QR code which will allow you to download a worksheet. Now, this worksheet was made just for you guys. Now, if you enjoyed this talk and want to explore more about how you can start leading more, download the worksheet and do the activities on them. I'm going to talk through all the steps in a minute here, but do them and you'll start seeing the differences in your work life. Now, before I start, I want to stress that leadership can be learned, can be practiced. Yes, some people are born leaders, some would say, but that doesn't mean that only those can lead. Being a leader is a developed set of skills. Now, it's important to strategize your leadership journey. Now, to do this, you need to be in the right environment, the right frame of mind. So I would suggest you find a few hours to yourself in your calendar, minimum 2 hours, but ideally 3 to 4 hours, where you can be away from distractions, away from pet duties, kid duties, away from your electronics. We will call that your Discover the Leadership in Me getaway. Once you found that slot in your calendar, go find yourself, and I'm serious here, find yourself a nice, relaxing spa and book a massage before your Discover the Leadership in Me getaway for at least 90 minutes. You may giggle, you may laugh, you may think, what the hell is he on about? But massages are regarded by almost all heads of industries as a crucial part of their routines. Now, fun fact about massages. According to Robin Sharma, massage significantly increases your brain performance by affecting your ability to solve problems. It reduces cortisol, the fear hormone levels, by about 31%, increases dopamine levels by 31%, which is a neurotransmitter positively affecting your mood and motivation. It also elevates the secretion of serotonin by 28%, which is the hormone directly responsible for regulating anxiety and raising happiness. He says about taking massages, this isn't an indulgence, it's an investment in your full creative expression, productivity, passion, and sustained good health. So why not do it? Once you've done your massage, those hours you've blocked off, go to the place you picked out for your Discover Your Leadership in Me getaway time, and take some time for this exercise, right? Now, in the past, I've booked out a hotel room for a night, and I've enjoyed the facilities, pampered myself, and took the time to go through these exercises. Again, we want your body and your environment to allow you to be in your best frame of mind. Once relaxed, once you're in that zone, you can start. Now, make sure you use the worksheet, or if you like, use a separate notebook and just follow the instructions as I talk through them. But whatever it is, make sure you write it down. Studies have shown that people who write down their thoughts and goals are 51% more likely to achieve them compared to others who don't write them down. So, point number 1 is about knowing your goals. Now, set a goal for yourself. No goal is ever too small. But without a goal, you are effectively walking blind. Your goal does not have to relate to leadership necessarily, but think of something that you want to achieve. Is it to learn and build something in a different framework than you're used to? Is it to find a new tool that will help you improve your productivity at work? Is it to read a specific book by a specific date? Just write it down. Write it down. You'll find that the idea of having a goal and striving to achieve it in itself requires an amount of leadership values and skills. Now, whether it's empathy, patience, knowledge, etc., but start off with your goal, write it down so that you can always refer back to it. If you have more than one, that's great. Just write those down too. The second point is knowing your self-ambition. In the next 30 and 90 days, what is your vision of your leadership which you will bring? What kind of leader do you want to be? Like I said before, not everyone intends on leading people. To be honest with yourself, be honest with yourself, with your abilities, your capabilities, and jot down what you would mean for you to lead moving forward. Write that down for you to look again. Remember to think about the next 30 days and then the next 90 days. Point number 3, having self-awareness. Now ask yourself, what is the worst leader you've ever had? What did he or she do to be the worst leader you've ever had? Did he yell? Did he delegate everything to you? Did he constantly give you unclear instructions? Did he annoy you? Write these things down. Just write them down. Now for each one of them, give yourself a score from 1 to 5. 5 being great, on how good you are at these characteristics you've pointed out. If you were to dig deep, what would you do or plan in order to move up the score? Remember to write the plan down too. Writing it gives you this subliminal commitment to yourself, a reminder, if you like, of this plan, so that you think of it when you find yourself in a similar situation. The next point is overcoming fears. Now, what tends to stop someone from being a leader? It is often the consequence of being a leader. But the consequences of being a leader are far better than the consequences of being a follower. Those can be a lot more dire. You would always have to go along with whatever. Like, as a follower, you have to make adjustments, not compromises. You have no control over your journey until the time you decide to lead. So what do you think are the 3 things that you would be scared of if you were to lead more? Well, what would you fear? And write down what you think you could do to mitigate this from happening. For example, one of my fears at one point was to make mistakes when making decisions on behalf of my squad. And when I say making mistakes that directly affect them. But how did I mitigate this? I made sure I understood the ins and outs of the project. I made sure that I knew what everyone was doing on a daily basis, understood how the engineering side of things worked, so that if the client had changes, I would have the autonomy to decide whether this was something we could do or couldn't do without impacting the project. The next point is about being in the right mindset. The human brain generally cannot comprehend the negative. Look, don't think of a monkey. Don't think of a monkey. Did you think of a monkey? I bet most of you did. Now, we reinforce things when we put things in the negative. I can't get the design right, I can't get this functionality coded, or I just can't do it. As opposed to, I'll keep trying to achieve this. I'll keep looking for solutions to my problem. I'll ask for help. It is so important to start converting things to the positive. As Simon Sinek once said, if you focus on obstacles, all you will see is obstacles. It's your choice of how you perceive things. It's how you perceive your career, how you perceive your job, how you perceive your tasks. It's literally all about perspective. So if you think about 3 negative statements you find yourself saying over and over again, or that you've experienced over the last few months. Write them down. Write down those 3 negative statements. Now, convert them into a positive statement. Think about how you shift from the negative to the positive state. On the next point, action speaks louder than words. A leader takes leaps. A leader will face challenges head on. Not necessarily big one all the times, but even small leaps sometimes. Leaps that might be minuscule to you, they might be important to somebody else. So try to find 3 small things that you're not comfortable doing on a daily basis. Write them down. And then I want you to write down what you might think you need to do in order to beat those challenges. The idea is that when you want to get yourself familiar with being uncomfortable, so that when the time comes, you have built a resilience and a resistance to this uncomfortableness, and you would have ended up building a confidence on your abilities. And that's going to help you through all sorts of challenges in the future. The next point is about having integrity. Now that's a really interesting point, because having integrity is crucial, not just as a leader, but as a colleague, as a person in the world, as a family member. Integrity is so important to build trust between people. And trust between team members is one of the most accurate predictors of success. Now, document in your journal and in your worksheets one thing this past week that you felt you did that portrayed integrity. Reaffirm to yourself by giving yourself that gratitude for being such a splendid person. Now, an interesting story is that Navy SEALs were asked to comment on their ideal type of teammate. And they interestingly based this on 2 criteria. One was performance, where you can count on that person to achieve what they're setting out to do, and they know what they're doing and they know how to do it. Second criteria was trust, where you would know this person will have your back, you can trust them with your family, with your life, and they'll be there for you, no matter what. And then they categorized the potential teammates into 4 categories. Low performance and low trust, high performance and low trust, low performance and high trust, and high performance with high trust. Now, everyone would love to have a high performance and high trust teammate, but those are one in a few. So the next most wanted type of teammate was surprisingly not the high performance and low trust, but instead the low performance and high trust instead. They felt that having that sort of bond with their teammate and that sort of person in the team would make them feel like they could achieve anything together. And they know that they could figure it out no matter what, and no man would be left behind. So, like I said, document in your journal one thing in this past week which you felt you did that portrayed integrity. Reaffirm to yourself by giving yourself that gratitude. Now, the next point is about making people feel important. Leadership is not about the leaders. Honestly, it's about everybody else. Praising and thanking someone for even the smallest achievement can have an everlasting effect on the person. So keep writing in your worksheet things that have happened in the past week that you felt gratitude for. If you're doing a daily journal or a weekly journal, put that in there. Every time you write a journal, have a gratitude section. Document who you're grateful for, why you're grateful to them, and who helped, and make sure that they know that you have that gratitude towards them. The next point is surround yourself with great people. Now take a step back and look around you and identify 5 people who you think you can learn something from. Now what is it about those people that make you think you can learn from them? What value can they bring to you? What could you learn from them? So in your worksheet, write down those 5 people, who they are, and what you hope to learn from them. Then write down what you can do for each of those in order to achieve that learning. For some, it will be something like, this person, I want to take them out for lunch every couple of weeks and have a list of questions ready to ask so I can learn more from them. Or it could be, I want to ask this person to spend time with me on the weekend to teach me how to use a certain tool, right? A leader is not afraid to ask questions, nor to show that they don't have all the answers. A leader is willing to put themselves out there for the sake of learning and growing. And that's a really important point. Now to the next segment, take responsibilities for your mistakes. Now, someone who can stand up and own up to mistakes they've made without an attempt to deflect or blame others is someone that's comfortable in their own skin. That's someone who has a sense of ownership. It's normal to make mistakes. We're all human. In a world where agile methodologies are more and more common and mistakes will be made. But what's important is to know that if a mistake is made, you need to recognize it, understand why it happened, and learn from it in order to avoid it happening again. So, in your worksheet, think of 5 mistakes you've made recently, in the past month, let's say. Rate them in terms of severity, from 1 to 5, with 5 being the most severe. Now write down some points on what you think you can do to avoid those mistakes from happening again. The next point is to have an outlet. It's always important to have your own thing outside of work. For some, it may be something creative. For others, a sport of some kind, whether it's badminton, football, cricket. But find something you're passionate about. As I mentioned, for me, it's the band. It's a place where when I'm in the studio, everything else kind of disappears, right? Everything outside the studio just disappears. Challenges at work don't creep up in the back of my mind. It's like a zone where I'm in like a different multiverse, if you like. And when it ends, you come just right back to where you were. But this break, this activity, this hobby, it'll give you a space and time to come back and see things from a new perspective. So when you have such an outlet, if you have such an outlet, write it down, right? And keep committing to it. But if you don't, think of 1 or 2 things you'd like to try doing. Write that down, see what it could be, and create a plan to start engaging with this outlet. Last but not least, to take it up a notch, every day serve someone. Every day do something for others which they cannot do for themselves. Put people first. Remember, leadership is not about leaders. It's about those around you. We have to do a mind shift in that whole process. It's about service over status. Think, what can I do for people instead of thinking, what can people do for me? Understand and recognize that with this level of servitude, there's going to be some inconveniences, because when you serve people, they don't do it in your time schedule. Now, to be a great leader, you should strive to do these 5 things every day. I think these are 5 things that I've learned from John Maxwell, 5 things that I try to do every day, and I'd like to share them with you. 1 is, every day, I value people. If I don't value people, I'll never add value to them. 2, every day I think of ways to add value to people. So every day I do things like, I look at my schedule, I look at my calendar, I look at my meetings, and I think, okay, who am I meeting? And I ask myself, what can I do to add value to those people? How can I do to add value to that meeting? 3rd is, I look for ways to add value to people. Opportunities will come. Things will happen throughout a day. See something goes wrong, you'll hear about it. Grab those moments and help. Support those who might need your help or just need a shoulder to lean on, right? Every day, point number 4, got ahead of myself. Every day, I do things that add value to people. At the end of the day, I ask, who did I serve today and who did I add value to today? And I reflect back. And I think, if I feel I couldn't answer that question, then I feel that I haven't done a good job. And tomorrow I must do better. And I reflect on that. And I said it to myself that tomorrow I will do better. My last point number 5, is every day I encourage others to add value to people.
To wrap it all up,
well, there you have it. 12 techniques and exercises which will help you in your journey to play your part as a leader. Do them all, apply them, and you will start seeing some results within 2 to 3 months. After those 2 to 3 months, do the exercises again. You'll see how things have evolved and changed. You'll notice some things that you'll still want to work on, while other things would have evolved into something new to look forward to. Now, leadership is all about transition. It's not about a single event. It's about consistency. Corporations often treat leadership with intensity. Things like, let's do a 2-day workshop, let's do a 4-day offsite, let's get some speakers to come in one day, and at the end of it all, we'll give you a certificate, and ta-da, you're a leader. No, that's not how that works. These things are important, sure, they're really important to remind us on how to keep on track, perhaps even learn new lessons, new tools, new techniques. But it's the daily practice of all the daily things that we do which matter the most. As Simon Sinek once said, it's an accumulation of a lot of little things if you do them constantly and consistently, along with a lot of other smaller things like saying good morning or making eye contact when you speak to somebody. It's the combination of all those things which you do over and over and over again, which will make you and those around you say, I love my job. Remember, leadership is not a title. Whether you're a fresh graduate or a seasoned veteran in your field, there's always space for us to learn more, to act like leaders and to add value to those around us. Now, it doesn't matter where you're coming from. It only matters where you're going. I hope you really found this information helpful today, and this helps you in your journey. Now, I'm really pleased to invite my fellow panelists for a little discussion and answer some questions you might have about leadership. For that to happen, I will teleport myself to the talk zone. Hey everyone, thanks for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed what we had to say today. And I'm really pleased to be joined here today with some guests. Let me introduce them. We've got Sheena over here. Hi Sheena, you want to wave? Sheena is an account director based out of Aleph in Singapore. We've also got Nasser. Nasser is our front-end lead from Malaysia. Say hi, Nasser. All right. And Leo, a design lead from Aleph Vietnam. All right, thanks, guys. Hey, you know, I'm glad that you guys are staying on for this, and we've got a lot of things to still talk about. It was hard to squeeze a lot of things about leadership in 30 minutes, but I hope that you got a lot out of it. And I'm really excited to have these three guests here because they've experienced everything in their lives. I feel I've been chatting with them for a while, and so I've got some questions for them. And if you guys got still more questions from the public, please submit them in YouTube, and we'll try to get to all of them if we can. But Sheena, let me start with you, Sheena. I wanted to ask you, how do you feel leadership has evolved over time? I mean, you've seen a lot in your years, and especially at Aleph recently. Tell me what your feel is.
Firstly, Gail, I think I never thought of booking a massage for myself. I think firstly, I'm going to be doing that tomorrow,
Good.
and then I probably follow every other step that you mentioned earlier today. But I think, like you said in the previous 30 minutes, leadership, is not a. I mean, for me, it's about being more self-aware. I think leadership comes from being aware and honest about yourself. I think I won't say how it has evolved. I think each person, each decade, each year, each firm has a different way of how they drive things. But for me, it is about being honest. Leadership to me is about teamwork. It's about giving that platform to people around you to do things together, because no leader can succeed, on their own. I think knowing your own limitations as a leader is the most important thing. And I think I just remember like something that my previous boss actually said to me, that Sheena, always hire people better than you, which is a very solid statement. And I think we are always, fearful about hiring people better than us because we are all human. But I think what it does is also it gives us the platform to succeed together better. And leadership is about building stronger teams, stronger, environments, places for other people to strive together, and because you're in it together actually. So that's what I think, that leadership is about. That it has evolved to a very large extent, but the very grain of leadership remains, that each one of us have distinct leadership styles. We get challenged with different things basically. And I also remember that my ex-CEO actually told me that, why is it that you always have uh, probably challenges looking up to people? Because when I was growing through the ladder, it was also the leaders that I wanted to look up to. So it's also, what are you teaching to your subordinates, that they are challenged, right? So those would be my opening thoughts to your question, Gail.
Awesome, thanks, Sheena. Cool, that's a really nice answer. And Nasser, how are you doing, Nasser? You okay? I think
I'm very fine.
Oh, excellent, good. And Nasser, so just a question from the public here. Is it okay to be scared when you're a leader? And what is it which scares you the most? What do you think about that?
Okay. Actually, I think for me, of course, it's okay to be scared. But as a when you have a like leader mindset, you do the job. You are scared, of course, but you will still finish the job. Because everyone is scared. But as a leaders, we should be brave. That's the thing I see in a lot of projects that I work in Aleph. And wanted to emphasize one thing that I like in your speech. It was that you said exactly the word I write it here is hierarchies being flattened. I see this in Aleph. Like, uh, I never scared to make mistake, or if I made a mistake, I never scared to talk to Sentir, come to you, say, Gabe, we made this mistake. And like the second thing that I really like about the culture in Aleph in leadership is the trust that we have. Like I know like projects are hard. Maybe we are scared to do something. Maybe something goes wrong, but I know that it's not only affecting me, it's affect the whole team. And it's not uh, in these 3 years that I've been part of Aleph, no one ever point a finger at me. Even if I made a mistake that I know it's like 100% uh, my fault, but uh, no one point a finger at me. And that's the main thing that I like about the Aleph culture in general. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, this flattening of hierarchy is sometimes hard to get a grasp of because generally you still have someone who has to take responsibility for certain things, but it's about how we all come together. And just to kind of go back to that question about being scared, I think it's normal, right? I don't know if you guys agree, but I think it's normal that we as we try to innovate, as we try to challenge, as we try new things, new technologies, new methodologies, we might be scared to make mistakes, and usually that's what it stands. That's what it is. Yet, if you keep practicing, putting yourself in those situations and putting yourself out there, and sometimes being uncomfortable for a bit, not to say you get used to it, but you build the resilience to it, right? And you're willing to do it, and not to say take more risks, but be willing to make decisions that might usually scare you to make, and try to push them off to somebody else. So I think that's kind of a really interesting question. But thanks for that. And going over to you, Leo. Question for you now. It's about um, what do you think about leading without title? Do you think that works? That's something that works?
Yeah. Thanks for that question. It's a really nice question, actually. Among our team, especially in Vietnam, we discuss a lot about the people who can live without title. I think that's something happening every day in our studio practice. For example, I think when it comes to the design, I mean, people always are thinking about it's like a waterfall. People receive the requirement, people do the design and finish. That's and that's in the room. The designer may be someone who do not talk a lot, but I think in some case, in that case, we can find some really good designers. I mean, in our team, we have someone who do not own the room, who do not lead the meeting with their voice, but with their doing, with their practice. So, and also I think that as a designer, we have different ways to create impact. And I really love one of your quotes in your previous sharing. I think that leading is not about telling people about what to do, right? Leading is about creating impact and moving things and moving something toward a direction. And when it comes to design, especially the experience design, I think someone who can lead the direction toward something more user-centric, something more human-centric, is a leader. They're all leader. And one of my when talking about the leadership, I always have one of my most favorite books is Lead Yourself First. That's my favorite book about leadership. And in that book, they do not talk about how to manage people, how to nudge people, or how to make people obey you. It's about like what you're sharing. It's about setting your goals, leading without no fear. Learn how to talk with yourself, how to be disciplined with what you do, and I think that's someone who can do that is a leader, and a leader without title.
Yeah, I think that's really deep, and thanks for sharing that. I got an interesting question here, which from Amit. So hi Amit, nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. So the question is, who is your inspiration, and who inspires you to be better every day? Right, and I think it's such an interesting question. I'd like to pose that to everybody here on the panel, because I'd love to hear. But maybe I'll start. I feel like there's um, for me it's a really weird question answer, but there's not a single person that inspires me every day. For me, it's everyone around me that inspires me every day. And let me try to explain that really quickly. But I look at my family, my kids, and what they're the world they're going in, and the people around me, and at work, and even our clients. Like everything that just happens around me just inspires me to be better, to do better, to empower others, to see them grow, to see them achieve something special. And that's kind of like, I mean, I guess it says a lot about me, but that's kind of how I see it. And who inspires me, I guess that's a get out of bed and start doing stuff every day point of view. But when I look at those leadership speakers like John Maxwell and even Robin Sharma to some extent, I feel like when I watch those, I just feel like I can take on the whole world. Until I wake up the next day, and then I feel like, oh no, client problem, oh no. But then I watch another video and we're like, oh, okay, we're good. But yeah, I think that's just for me. How about you, Sheena?
I think finding inspiration is in everything that we do every single day. It's not only when we are, going on pitches or doing business meetings, but it's also as simple as going to maybe a coffee shop and seeing how, those people are serving you with that much of dedication, right? So the integrity, the honesty, the dedication that comes into play, because they're also working together as a team, right? They probably have a leader there, but inspiration is in everything within the business scenario and outside. You could probably look at maybe Mark Zuckerberg or maybe Elon Musk and get inspired that what is it that they have in them, and probably just challenge yourself to be better in your next business meeting. But it's also when you are attending those business meetings and how even the clients are carrying themselves. So I think each moment is an inspiration. It's just that you have to keep your heart open and you have to keep your mind open to let all that and embrace everything, basically all those learnings. So that's what I can say about that, Gail. You're on mute, Gail.
Sorry, what about you, Nasser?
Okay, I think it's a little weird, but I think a lot of people here see the movie Forrest Gump. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's about the guy. Like, actually, some character like Forrest, like I inspire from that, running and never stop, never going to stop, taking decisions on edge, but following them to the end, even if you don't have enough, like don't have enough like starting goods. You just start and you try to finish big jobs until the other people follow you. Like I think like I want to like everything that I want to persuade. I just want to persuade and never stop. Like uh, uh, find a good goal and persuade it. Like something like that. I can say that kind of character is my inspiration.
Nice. I love that reference, Forrest Gump as well. What about you, Leo?
Yeah, I raise this question a lot, but when it comes to academic, inspire someone who writing book or making some speech. Talking about leaderships, it's Simon Sinek who always come to my mind first. The one who have the very famous quote, "Start with why." Right? He gave a TED talk on that topic, and he write a lot about the leadership. That's someone who inspired me a lot in the early days. But then, yeah, I think I share same ways of thinking with Sheena. Like, well, when I start having more understanding about leadership, I think everyone can be a great leader, and we can learn leadership from everyone. As like someone who do not need a title can be a very good inspire among the team, and as long as they have a vision, they have a clear goal, they have dedication for everything they do, and they are creating impact. So they own kind of people that will inspire me. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that. So let me find. Well, there's a few more questions to go through here, but one question from Jasneet here: constant influence. How does a leader make this happen? I find that a really interesting question because I feel that leadership is like, okay, to me, leadership is not something that you set out to do. It's something that just happens based on how you behave, how you act, how you interact, how you take on challenges. It's not like you sit there and say, today I'm going to be a leader and tomorrow I'm not, right? So it's this collection of little things that you do, right? Whether it's decision making, whether it's problem solving, whether it's collaborating with people, but a collection of all of those things that come together that will, when you do them and you do them right, which means you need to practice them and you need to keep doing them, people tend to take notice, right? And people tend to think, hey, this is someone I want to follow, I want to work with, I want to continue being with, and I feel that the moment you lose that influence, right, is the moment that you decide to give up on being a better person, right? Because I think your reputation and what you've done in the past will only take you so far. But if you stop trying to improve and you stop trying to be a better person, then I think that will also come through in your work and what you do every day, and people will take notice of that. Sure, that doesn't mean they won't respect you, but I think in terms of that constant influence that you asked about, that's a really interesting one as well, actually. What about you, Sheena?
Yeah, I think like what you're saying, right? It is a tough job. It's not easy, but I think when you don't do it in all consciousness and all that pressure of constantly doing a certain thing, of course it comes with its pressure that you're a leader, you need to conduct yourself in a certain way. But I think if you are naturally doing things which are right, which is something that you're supposed to do, rather than being under that constant scanner of doing it a certain way, but just being honest with yourself. And I also feel that when you're doing that, you're also making yourself as a leader a part of the Lego set, right? So you have people who are already fitting in certain pieces, and you're just giving them that platform and that environment to steer in the right direction by doing the right things. And that is where the difference between a good leader and a great leader comes into play, because there can be many good leaders, but to be a great leader probably comes with a little bit more natural finesse, because even though you're saying that it can be learned, yes, it can be learned, but some people have to make a little bit more efforts. For some people it just comes very naturally. So that's how I would like to answer this question.
Cool. So let me move on to the next question. Another question here. As important as leadership qualities are, do you believe that followership, it's apparently a word that you just made up, the followership, is as important as well? What do you think, Leo?
Wow. Yeah, actually, I don't get the
Question,
full
Leo. It's a big
understanding.
question.
Yeah. about that terminology of followership, but from my point of view, you know, when I think that remind me about the Avengers movie, right? And in Avenger, we see that someone who had great powers, they will come with a great responsibility. And great power is also the power of influence people and attract people and make people follow you. Also, it comes with responsibility. And I think when talking about the follower, someone who will make people follow you, I don't think about its a goal or the quality of the leader. But first, you should be, like Sheena said, you should, create a platform for people to feel safe, to create impact. You should be the one who pick up the trust on your own. You should, you should learn how to remove barrier for the team. And from my perspective, I think it's really important for you to take interest in the team, not make people interest in you, but you should have your interest in the team. Spend time with the team, grabbing some coffee, making some call, even chit chat on something you call outlet, right? Something outside your work. This is very important for to create connection, to create engagement with the team, and then people will come to you as a result. We do not require at the first place. So that's my point of view about something called followership.
Yeah, cool. I feel like just jamming here, but I started with you, Leo, because in my mind I was like, wow, like that's a deep question, right? And it's such a, I feel like it's a question I'm going to end up sleeping on tonight. It's going to stick in the back of my mind because there's a train of thought that that there are a lot less followers than we think out there, right? And it's just that the difference is there are a lot of people that are still discovering their journey towards leadership. There's some people who are just not ready for it yet, or their priorities are elsewhere at this point in time, right? And eventually, whatever they learn from either you or their colleagues or the experiences that they go through, it will come to serve them at some point, right? Because we are the sum of our experiences, right? And and there's very few people who are purely just followers, right? Who are very comfortable with where they are. I guess I could imagine a 60-year-old guy who's still working, who's just waiting for his retirement. Then maybe yeah, okay, he's just like, yeah, I'm clocking out at 6. Not my problem. Nope, I'm not chipping in. My wife is waiting, and I'm going on holiday next week, and leave me alone. I'm retiring in 2 months. Like, yeah, maybe, but I feel that that there's this thing where a lot of people think, oh, I'm just a follower. I don't think so. I think that there's, like we mentioned earlier, there's different ways to lead, right? Whether it's through knowledge, whether it's through managing people, whether it's through doing all sorts of different things, right? And in maybe in certain areas you depend on other leaders because that's where they're strong, right? But in other areas you will get to shine, right? And I think so. That's the way I see it. I think. But anyways, I think let's move on to the next question because we're really running out of time now, and there's so many more questions, and I'm gonna get told to stop talking. Question for you, Nasser, right? Sorry, I was about to read the same question here. What do you think of the philosophy that being a leader is to serve?
Okay, so I can give you an example. Like when I was because in Iran we have to serve our military for 2 years. So when I was in military, we have a commander. A commander is like the leader in military, but exactly that was the situation. He wake up every day 1 hour before us. He starts working before us, and he go to sleep always one hour after us. I think when you are a leader, you are actually serving others. You work more and you expect less from people, and you always care about them. I think that's how you become a servant as a leader. Yeah.
Cool, I agree with that. Sheena, you wanted to add something there? I saw you reached out for the unmute button.
No, I wasn't. But I quite like what Yasser was mentioning. I was actually also reading the next question already, which is very, very interesting on the thing. If I can take that liberty, Gail, because somebody is asking in the chat window on how to handle self-esteem, when you are. So I think I'd rather pose that question back to you, Gail, that how do you handle? Yeah. Um,
That's a very interesting question. I think, look, I feel, even 10 years ago, I wouldn't be speaking like I do now publicly. I feel like, but there are moments in your life where you will find an obstacle, and you will say to yourself, today's the day I'm going to pass that obstacle, right? For me, it was, stage fright at first, for whether it was the band or even plays at school, even, and public speaking. I just think that there are moments where you if I'll give you an example. We had a bandmate. Well, we have a bandmate who suffers from, I would say, low self-esteem. Great musician, great guy, funniest guy you'll ever meet. But you tell him, hey, dance a bit on stage, and he'd be like, no, what are people going to think? And he's got that sort of attitude. And we realized the more we pushed him to kind of get past that obstacle, the more he went backwards, and he was hiding more and more. And I realized it really made me realize that sometimes you can't force someone to do something they're uncomfortable with, right? You can't tell someone, hey, you must start leading today, you must start, learn this today. I think everyone has their own path and their own journey, and they have to discover themselves and discover how to get there. But what we and other leaders can do, and no matter at any level of the organization, is to create an environment for that growth, create an environment for people to feel comfortable to take that leap when they're ready for that leap, right? So I feel, I don't know if that really answers the question, but because I think that's like a really hard question. I know I see why you were like, let me ask this.
that does actually. But I also feel that, there is no one who does not suffer from that. That is the real truth, and that's the honesty. It's just that I think when we feel that, some of us just pretend. So, you can follow that mantra, or you can follow, something else about, just overcoming that challenge is how I see it. All leaders do go through it.
Can I weigh in here? I have a experience actually about the thing that Gail says you need to follow your own path. Like the thing is, I always afraid of dark. I like whole my childhood I was afraid of dark until when I went to Thailand. I have to stay in the jungle for 30 days, and in the jungle only there was another guy that lives on like 10 kilometers the other side. So I was alone in the jungle. After that 30 days, like the first day and second day, I fight, like I open the lights, I do everything. But after the second day, I say, okay, I just go to sleep. And after that, I never scared of dark. I think if we have that kind of fear, if we put ourselves inside the situation, somehow that we cannot go back, then we can face them.
Yeah, I agree completely with that. Completely. I think that's a really interesting insight. I think we're going to need to wrap up soon, but there's a lot more questions here. Let me see if there's anyone that can be kind of answered in quick fire round. But they seem quite deep. They're all very deep questions, except for one here. What's your superpower, Gail? Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to ask everybody here, what's your superpower? Right? Because I heard we talked about the MCU. I talked about the multiverse. I think there's superpowers everywhere. So, Leo, what's your superpower?
Wow, actually, that's a question I ask in every employee interview. And now I need to answer that question. But I think if I am superheroes in a Avenger movie, my superpower, well, actually I really like I like Batman. Actually, I do not. Yeah, actually, I am a fan of Marvel's movie, but I would like to have the power of Batman. Like, actually, Batman has no superpower, right? Yeah, definitely he has some money, but more than that, his ability to, to understand people and to bring people together into a big group. So that's the superpower I would like to have today, and I'm a superhero. And yeah, and in normal life, if you talk asking about my superpower in normal life, I think it's a ability to adapt into different situation and environment. Yeah, so that's
a great answer. Awesome. What about you, Sheena? What's your superpower?
I don't know whether I have a superpower or not, but I think I just live by the thought, and probably I sleep every night with the thought that today is all I have. So I just pack the punch in every moment that I live, and live as if, I need to do my best in this very moment. So that's the thought that I go by.
Awesome. What about you, Nasser? What's your superpower, Nasser?
I actually don't have any superpowers, but if I want to say, I think I have good problem solving skills. Like if a problem comes my way, I find a way, like even weird, but I solve it.
Cool. Awesome. I think for me, it's well, I'm hesitant to pick one, but I think it's problem solving as well. I think I enjoy challenges. I enjoy puzzles. I enjoy challenging situations. Sometimes I don't like what the solution entails, but I like coming up with the solution. So that's where I am. Awesome. So, anyways, thank you guys so much for your time. I'm sorry if we didn't get to your answers. And maybe you can write to Academy and say, make sure these sessions are longer next time. Yay! But thank you so much, everyone. I need to apologize to all the heads of departments and countries, because I'm getting a lot of messages from people saying, how do I ask for a budget for a spa day now? Sorry, guys. Yeah, it's just so everybody just make sure you get a chance to scan the QR code. I think the link's in the description for the worksheet. If you feel like it and you want to discover your path towards leadership and how you can find your own leadership style and how you can get involved, please download it. And if we see you around, say hi. And thanks everybody for joining us today. And we'll see you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.